So hi, I'm Cid Pearlman and I'm a California-based choreographer, and I've just finished a triptych of works based on the theme of Economies of Effort 1, 2, and 3. The last piece, Economies of Effort 3, we just finished, and it was performed at Felix Culpa Gallery here in Santa Cruz and at Joe Good Annex in San Francisco. And in this piece, I was interested in taking this economy of effort, using our resources in the best possible way, which was a theory that we worked with the first two pieces, as a way to invite the audience into that. And so it was a site-specific immersive piece. The audience was free to come and go as they please, to choose what they watched when, inside the gallery or inside the sculpture garden.
Suppose I shredded in my napkin as we spoke. It began slowly, an appreciation, an affinity. Then, one day, it became more serious. Then, looking into an empty teacup, its bottom stained with thin brown excrement, coiled into the shape of seagulls, it became somehow personal.
I have chosen dance as the way to talk about what I feel is important in the world. I'm really interested in how we negotiate being in a complex world together. So much can be said just with people together, figuring out how to make our way, so that we can talk about things that we might not be able to fully articulate with words, that are more complex. So we can talk about many things going on simultaneously, and also then that people don't have to understand exactly what it is. We're not trying to nail down a specific one thought. And also that it's very collaborative. I choose my dancers really carefully so that they're people who can engage in the process. They themselves are collaborators and authors in the work and choreographers, and that the process of collaboration, that we work together and we solve problems together, it's really not something that you do in a lot of other art forms. Many other art forms are very solo. You never know what a dance is going to look like until you make it, and part of that are the people you choose to collaborate with. I don't want people to be mugging for each other, sort of putting on a fake jazz face or a fake theatrical face, but I want them to see each other, and I want the emotions to register on the face, and I want them to see the audiences. In this case, because the audience is so close, the idea is not to look over the audience's heads, at something there, but to be in the room. When you come into a theater piece, people are always saying, okay, turn off your phones, turn off your cameras, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I thought, instead of being at odds with that and having to kind of police people taking pictures and video, that I would just open it up as an invitation, so that if you want to see it behind your camera, that's okay. I can't teach them in an hour to see differently. I don't think, I'm teaching a 10-week choreography class up at UC. You can only get even so far in 10 weeks. So in an hour, I would love to make work that provokes conversation, and maybe they learn how to see a little bit differently. But I think the relationship with screens is really intense right now. So I just decided to, I'm an Aikidoist, and I decided that I would blend with the screen. I still think that making dances, the power in making things with bodies is awesome. One of the things I was interested in the first piece was Baumel's cost disease, where he talks about the fact that things like education, healthcare, and art seem really expensive because they take just as long to make as they always did, in spite of the technological speed up that makes cameras cheap and watches cheap and computers cheaper. It takes just as long to make a dance as it always did. Healthcare, education, some things are sped up by technology, but it takes a while to get an education. You know, you can't just cram things in. And so in terms of the idea of economies of effort, I wanted that the labor in the first piece and then throughout, that the labor of the dance, making the dance, was visible, that there was a power in making things, and that curiosity is really important. I don't think that my work is violent, but I don't veer away from things that look intense, and intense feeling and intense sensation. Some things can seem quite violent. There's a suffocation. But in that suffocation, then the lungs really have to work, and something real is happening. I think that we also come into conflict with each other. Conflict is real. And that we need to learn to be able to negotiate our way through that. Bodies are resilient, and I think also when you want to show the resiliency of the body, you can't always work in a sort of a narrow bandwidth where effort and risk are occluded. Interested in showing different ways people can be together, and that we have this sort of heteronormative narrative of boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back. And if you put a man and a woman on stage together, there's already so much backstory that many people are just going to assume it's a romance. And intimacy is much more complicated than that. You can be intimate with your partner, who might be of a different gender or the same gender than you are. Gender is a very fluid thing. when you're a choreographer, you're theorizing what you believe on stage just in the way as any other author or creator. And so the world I want to see on stage is complex, and I want to be able to see everyone in it. Intimate relationships are one of the ways in which, that we communicate. And it's important that we can see that there's a complexity of intimacy. You can be intimate with your family, you can be intimate with a partner, you can also be intimate with a friend, you can be intimate, and that the gender of that person isn't really relevant. And so in my work there is, in this piece there is smelling, and there is touching, and there is pulling, and there is pushing, and there is cradling, and sometimes when we get on top of each other, people are acting as rafts or life rafts for each other, that we can hold and take care of each other, and that we can also be fierce and passionate with each other, and that this doesn't have to be around sex only, so that we can be intimate with people who we are not having sex with, but that we have complicated, intimate relationships that grow over time. this kind of work also gives us the possibility as a dance company without a lot of funding to be able to do a 20 performance run, which is something extraordinary, and that we can get deeply into the work. We can learn so much more about it when we can do it so many times, as opposed to, you know, a 3-day run where you spend 6 months making something, it goes up for 3 days, if it doesn't tour, it's all gone. And so this gave us a chance to really go deeper in the work, which was, I think, a really, you know, fortuitous opportunity. Economies of Effort 3 is our second collaboration with Robbie Schoen, who's the gallery director at Felix Culpa and also a great visual artist. One of the ways that you can keep your costs down is not renting a theater. And I had such a great time working with Robbie that I approached him about us being artists in residence at the gallery for 3 months to build this piece. And would he, you know, collaborated with us on the visual design. And he's just an extraordinary collaborator and human being, and, you know, makes things possible. You know, if you imagine it, he says yes. And so really without Robbie's participation, the pieces wouldn't be what they were.
She made eye contact now, and then she didn't participate. And after a while, she asked me,